Hey guys, I'm Miss Uptig, and today I'm going to take you through multiplying negative numbers. So when we're multiplying positive and negative numbers, what we want to look at is the two numbers that we have and whether they're positive or negative. So our general rule is if we have a positive and we multiply it by a positive, it's going to equal a positive. But if we have a negative and we multiply it by a negative, that is also going to equal a positive. So then if we have a positive and we multiply that by a negative, that's going to equal a negative. And if we have a negative that we multiply by a positive, that's also going to equal a negative. All right. So we're just going to bear all of this in mind while we start doing some equations. So if we have the equation 2 times negative 3, we know that 2 times 3 equals 6. But what we're going to look at is our positives and negatives. So we've got a positive 2 because we don't have anything out the front here that tells us it's positive. So we're either looking at this row or this row. Now our second number is a negative, which means we're looking at this row here, which tells us that a positive times a negative equals a negative. So 2 multiplied by negative 3 equals negative 6. Now, if we have negative 4 times 5, we know that 4 times 5 equals 20. So then we're going to look at what's out the front. So we have a negative 4 and a positive 5. So if there's nothing out the front of a number, remember that means that it is positive. So a negative multiplied by a positive equals a negative, which tells us that negative 4 times 5 equals negative 20. Now, if we had negative 3 times negative 4, we know that 3 times 4 equals 12. So what we've got to look at with this one is our negatives out the front. We have a negative out the front of the 3 and a negative out the front of the 4, which gives us this row here. And it tells us that a negative times a negative equals a positive. All right, so that's going to give us positive 12. So now we're going to go through a couple of examples. I'm going to write up some questions, and then once I've finished, I want you to press pause and have a go yourself, and then we'll go through the answers. All right, so we know that 3 times 1 equals 3. So what we've got to look at is our signs out the front. So we have a positive 3 and a negative 1. So we have a positive and a negative. So that's going to equal negative 3. We know that 6 times 4 equals 24. And again, we've got to look at our positives and negatives. So we have a negative 6 and a positive 4, which gives us this row here, which tells us that negative 6 times 4 equals negative 24. And finally, we know that 2 times 5 equals 10. So we have a negative and a negative. So we know that if we have the same sign here, we're going to have a positive. So negative 2 times negative 5 equals positive 10. And that is how we multiply positive and negative numbers.